Now, yesterday, I would say I've had what I would class as a serious design fault with the JAECOO J7. I've been on the forums over the last few months, actually whilst owning this, and I've seen people mention it, and in the comments, there's a lot of people that ridicule them for not having read the manual and being in the wrong settings and it's their fault. Now, I've owned this for 3 months. I'd say I know quite a bit about it, and I can tell you to start off with, before I tell you what the fault was, that I was in the right settings. I know it was not user error. Now, fortunately, I wasn't filming. I was dropping my kids back off, and so yes, I've got no footage, I've got nothing to kind of show you, but we're just going to talk through it, and maybe some of you have had the problem. And if not, maybe this will help you if you have the problem. The fault error on the screen was something along the lines of power system failure or power drive error. I was on a dual carriageway, 70 miles an hour, going along, and basically I near enough lost all drive, all power. My speed dropped, it got to 50, got to 40, then it got to 30 miles an hour on a 70. It wasn't a pleasant experience, and putting your foot on the accelerator, there was just nothing. It wasn't giving me any more. Now, coming back a little bit, just to give you a bit of understanding, I had a full tank, so 694 miles on the tank. I was at 100% battery. The journey is about an hour and 20 minutes one way, and obviously an hour and 20 back. 85% on dual carriageway. Settings wise, I was in EV until it clicked over to HEV. I was in Eco, I was in Smart, and I had the regen at medium, so at number 2. Before we go any further, let me just tell you about the engine in this. So this is the JAECOO J7 2025 SHS, so the plug-in hybrid. Now, many of you that have had hybrids before, maybe used to running on battery and then it clicking over to the petrol and running on petrol. This engine is different. Now, you need to think of this as a 58-mile electric car with a combustion engine to regen that battery. I know, slightly confusing, and I too thought that it would just use the electric when it wants to use the electric and then click over to the petrol when it's ready to use, or when it's run out of battery to use, until you can then go on and plug it back in. But it's not, and that is where the problem lies, in my opinion, with this engine. Whether you have this in EV or HEV at the start of your journey, it doesn't really matter. And I say that because it will always use the battery first. Even if you put it in HEV, from the moment you drive off, it will use the battery all the way until it gets to around the 25%. Obviously, with the regen, it will help put a little bit of charge back in, but the petrol engine won't kick in. It won't start using your petrol until you're around, say, the 25%. And then, whilst you're driving along, it uses the petrol to do a little bit of driving, but also keep the battery around that 25% mark. That's if you have it in the Smart, but if you have it in the Forced, it will use the petrol engine to drive a little bit, but also try and enforce more battery power back into the battery to kind of top it back up. And when you're looking at the car infotainment screen, and you can see what is powering the wheels, whether it be the engine or the battery, and then you can see which way the battery is charging, as in, is it powering the wheels or is it charging itself? That's where the problem lied with me yesterday on the dual carriageway. The battery got to 25%. Obviously, it's now in hybrid. It then got to 20%, and then the battery kept dropping. Whether it's because I was on just a normal dual carriageway and there wasn't much traffic, so it was just constant driving, it wasn't regenerating the battery enough, and the battery dropped until it got to 11%. When you actually click over from percentage to miles, 11% is 0 miles. So in essence, the battery's dead, or there's no more juice in the battery. And that's where then that system failure come in. Like, it didn't have enough battery to kind of power the car, even though I had at that point 650 miles of petrol in the car. It didn't matter. It still basically shit its pants and went into limp mode and didn't want to do any. That for me is a massive design fault. If I get so low on the battery and you need to use the petrol, then use the petrol, ignore the battery, just use the petrol to continue my journey, and then regen the battery as and when obviously it can. But it doesn't. And I'm not going to lie, doing 30 on a dual carriageway at night, it's not a nice experience. So luckily I managed to find a lay-by within 500-600 yards, pulled in, started looking on the forums, and people are like, oh, it's you put it in the wrong stuff. Again, I was in the right settings. Even when I put it into forced, it just wasn't putting enough juice back into the battery. Looking at the maps, I knew there was a petrol station with a charging point a few miles down the road, but I didn't want to stay on the dual carriageway. It was just too dangerous to do that. Luckily, there was an exit only a few hundred yards from the lay-by I was in, so I managed to get the car started, pull back onto the lay-by. Within a few minutes, that error come up again, and I started to lose power. But at this point, I was off the dual carriageway, and I put it into forced, and you kind of just have to really gently touch the throttle for it to use the petrol engine to force back into the juice back into the battery. If you start pushing and accelerating a little bit harder, the car then wants to use the battery instead of the engine to power. And that's the problem, is it wasn't putting enough juice back in the battery for the car to kind of stay alive. And so I was pretty much doing like 20-25 miles an hour, just kind of gently throttling it. I was using all the back roads to get round to the Amesbury charging point, which thankfully Tesla saved the day with their super fast chargers. I managed to get in, I had to sit there for half hour, 40 minutes, so I charged up to 96% and then could continue my journey. But yeah, when that error message pops up, it tells you to stop, get recovered to a dealership, and it's ridiculous. I've got 650 miles of petrol, but I can't drive the car because I don't have any battery. But the battery's only 58 miles of full range. Like, I shouldn't have range anxiety with a plug-in hybrid. The whole point of the smart system on this is that it allows the battery to be used when it gets to 25%, 20%, it then uses the petrol then to top up the battery, and then it will stay like that. And for 3 months and 4,600 miles, it's done exactly that. I mean, Friday, wait for the vehicle to pass, Friday just gone, when I went to Portsmouth to pick my kids up, for whatever reason, the car didn't charge. So it had full petrol and 18% battery, and I managed to go to Portsmouth and back, and I didn't have any problems with this drive issue. Saturday, we went to Milton Keynes, 3 odd hours, and on the way back, the battery dropped, and we managed to pull over before we had any issues. So it's not smart enough. I don't understand what's wrong. Like I said, I don't want to have range anxiety with a bloody petrol plug-in hybrid. And the other thing is, when the battery drops so low and then it uses the petrol engine to charge it even more when the battery's really low, like under 20%, because it's only a 1.5 turbo litre engine, it revs the hell out of it to try and put the juice back in. And it sounds hideous, like, because you're so used to this car being like nice and quiet. When that engine like really does kick in, it's unnerving when you start putting your foot on the throttle. Like, there's a lot of noise and it doesn't sound pleasant at all. So yeah, serious design fault. If anyone has had this problem, let me know. What did you do? Did you ring RAC and get recovered? Or like me, did you kind of just manage to work it out and get to a plug-in point to charge up? It is something I will be speaking to JAECOO about, and kind of getting their advice and seeing what they recommend, and seeing if there is anything that we can do to sort this out maybe in the future. So I've put it into force just so you can see the different colours on the diagram. Obviously engine on the left in the red, the green is the direction, of the power which is going into the battery. When it goes blue from the battery to the wheels, that means the battery is powering the wheels, not the petrol engine. So like at the minute, the petrol engine is doing the wheels and charging the battery. When I had it enforced yesterday, it wasn't doing that. It was flickering between blue and green. Hopefully the camera's picking it up where it's going green, blue, green, blue, green, blue, from the wheels to the battery. So it just couldn't work out whether it wanted to charge or use the battery to drive. There you go. You might have seen it quickly then. It popped up with the red from the engine to the wheels. That means that the power of the petrol engine was driving the train and charging the battery. Well, I try and give you a fair and honest opinion and reviews on this car, just so you know whether this is something that you are going to be interested in. I love the car. Actually, it saved me a lot of money on fuel, but this, it wasn't ideal. I'll give you that. It was not a pleasant time to be in the car. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but if it does, I don't know what the answer is. A jumper, something to force a lot of power back into the battery, I don't know. But if I do find an answer, I will let you know. Well, as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. More importantly, subscribe to the channel. And YouTube have recommended these other videos just for you. See you on the next one.